Hey friends, we are looking at the Max Hummer. This is made by a company called Keep My Specialty, which is kind of an unusual name. In the Amazon listing, it was actually sold by DUANT, which is also a strange name. But anyway, this has a glorious iridescent box, and it's set number JD126, 2069 pieces. And this is a two-in-one. It's a Humvee that is inspired by Mad Max movies, and you can build it either as the Mad Max post-apocalyptic kitted out version, or you can build it as a straight Humvee. And this is one of those sets that is about the size of those Creator and Icon brick built vehicles. So a lot of this is Technic for the chassis, but then above that, it's mostly brick built. And there's some play features that are built into it too that I was trying to kind of figure out based on the instructions. And then we'll look at all of those things. So in this video, we're going to look at the box. We'll figure out what we can discern about what you're going to get in the model. And we'll look at the parts. We'll look at the instructions too. We'll see if these are all Lego compatible. And then in a separate video, I will review the finished model and we'll play with it. We'll see how it turns out. Okay, so the model itself, you can see, is definitely post-apocalyptic. It's got these, huge wheel covers that have the spikes on them. It's got this really big, I don't know what you call this, up at the front. These giant sets of gears and cutting saw blades up front. And then it's got these huge horns, like bull horns. They're super menacing. And it's got a roof mounted, I don't know what this is, a supercharger, an exhaust stack coming out the side there. And along the top here, what you're seeing is barrels that you can load into a catapult. And then near the back here, it's got a winch with a wrecking ball on the end of it. And then every window is covered with bars and extra plating and armored. And then there's like these, I don't know, bull bars that run along the entire side. So there's a lot to like about it if you're into the Mad Max aesthetic. And then of course, if you want to, you can build it just straight up plain Humvee. So that's what this version is. And check it out. It even has those exposed lug nuts that Humvees have, and it's got a kind of a more toned down, modest bull bar, and the windows and things are, I mean, a Humvee is a really good thing to build out of Lego because it's so flat, and so that's what you get. There's a closer look at the wheels and those spikes coming off those wheels. Look at the catapult. Here's the wrecking ball with the giant spiked ball hanging off the back of it. And then there's a spare tire on the back. And then here's a look at sort of the rear view look of it. All right. And so the bags themselves are numbered 1 through 6. And as far as I can tell, these parts are Lego compatible. And the colors are pretty close to what you see from Lego. Here's the size of the tire. They're rubber. So based on the size of that tire, I'm going to guess the vehicle is yay big or so. So maybe about a foot long. So we'll take a look at that. I did not see any printed parts and I did not see any stickers. So it's possible this set just didn't have any decorations. That is a possibility. And I don't see any super wonky parts in here. They look fairly familiar and fairly standard for what we're familiar with. And the colors feel pretty close to Lego colors. There's this odd bag that's just not really numbered. And I don't know what that is. Maybe these are spare parts or parts that were missing during production. I'm not sure. All right, so looking at the book, it's matte, perfect bound, which I really like. And going into it, it jumps in, it tells you a little bit how to figure out the sizing, and then it tells you about the bags and what pages each bag is. Got a nice picture here of the 2 different models that you can build. And going into it, you can see that it's Technic right off the bat. And there's some gearing, some things like that that are happening in there. And this model is static. It does not include any motors. It's not RC, but it gives you options and it gives you instructions on how to add your own motors and make this an RC model. So along the way, as I'm going through this manual, every now and then it'll call out dynamic instructions, and it'll sort of detour the instructions and tell you how to build it in a dynamic way with motors. And um, my only gripe about that is it's a little hard to figure out which instructions are dynamic versus which are static, because sometimes it's not 100% clear. So as you can see, a lot of that foundation was Technic, but once you get past that, you're now into brick built territory, and Technic will make it super strong for the foundation of it. So I'm a fan of them using Technic there, and you build it up, and then so here's an example: dynamic version spec. Please skip static. So the question I have is, how do I know the difference between dynamic and static? It would be so much easier if it actually said, had like next to the number, maybe there was an S or a D, and then you could look and see, okay, these are the static ones, these are the dynamic ones. It would be nice if they had some sort of legend, but I have no idea which are static, which ones are dynamic. You have to look at it and maybe figure out, is there a motor in there? Are they doing something that requires a motor? So maybe as I get into it, it'll be more clear, but just from an outside standpoint, it's not clear right now. You get the roof, you put all that in there, and we're continuing to build it. And here's another where it stops and says, hey, this is the dynamic version, and please skip the static. So it uses this kind of motor, sort of squared off motor from Power Functions. It's a kind of a newer style Power Functions motor, and it sits in the back area here. As far as I could tell, it is driving the rear wheels, and you're supposed to then put the battery box up inside the passenger compartment. And so here's a look at how it's driving those rear wheels. And there's actually a drive shaft up to the front. So I thought at first maybe that's four-wheel drive, and you know what, I don't think it is. I think what it is it's meant to turn the saw blades in the front. So and you can see here there's some sort of other motor too. So maybe there's a separate motor that can then control the saw blades. Yeah, so look, here's the bed. There's actually two motors that are sitting in there. So maybe there's something else happening. This, it's hard for me to make out right now. But check this out. There's this whole side build that sits on top, and this is how you load those barrels in, and it's got a rubber band that shoots them out. There's the side guards, and you're putting them on there. There's the armor for the windows. Lots to it. I think there's going to be a lot of play functionality on this. It's going to have a lot you can do. So here's those saw blades, right? And there's an actual axle that's coming off of it that can turn all of these. Here's the best look at it. So all of the saw blades have an axle coming off of it. And I think that axle is the one that connects to the drive shaft. So potentially, even if you don't have a motor and you just move this vehicle, it will automatically turn those saw blades in the front. So I think that's probably how it's built in the static version, is that it'll do that. And then here's an indication for, what turns. This turns for the wrecking ball. Here are the barrels. There's the big old rubber band that catapults those barrels forward. And it's one of the clearer looks at what you're getting when you build it. And then here's two more looks at the plain version as well as that Mad Max version again. All right, so I hope you got to see everything you wanted to see about this particular set. And if you liked the video, please hit like and subscribe. You'll be the first to know when I've built this monster and we can enjoy it. We can take a look at it together. All right, thanks so much.